Hey everybody. I know it's been a good while since I've been on, but I'm trying to be more active on here when I can. Um, for those of you that don't know my name's Jessica. I'm a child. I'm a childhood trauma survivor, and we've been working on reading out of the Complex PTSD Workbook by Arielle Schwartz. And just wanted to read pages. I know we went over page 31 already on the last video, but I wanted to kind of go over that again quickly um, to refresh our memory on what we spoke about last and or where we ended at. And then also page 33. And then we'll go into a little bit more about those that information, stuff that I've reflected on myself of what I've been through. And like I've told y'all before, you know, a lot of the stories that I'm, of course, reflecting on, or a lot of the stuff that I'm reflecting on are my personal experiences, my stories. I am not a psychologist or a therapist yet. I am a psychology student currently, but yeah, I'm not a certain any kind of psychologist. So all of this is just like stories from my personal experiences and what I felt and experienced myself and what I've researched on my own, or the information I've gotten from like my counseling sessions or psychologists that I've gone to. But anyway, let's move on to what is complex PTSD, first of all. I know I've gone over that, but I wanted to refresh y'all's memory on what complex PTSD is. So, complex PTSD is when long term trauma trains your nervous system to stay in survival mode, making it hard to feel safe. It's also hard to trust others or fully relax, even after the danger is gone. That is what complex PTSD is. Um, yeah, so that's what we're talking about. That's what this book is about, and all the different cognitive distortions and all the different things that happen to the mind and the body because of the complex PTSD. So, like I said, I'm going to start off on page 31. It says, depressive symptoms. Andrew grew up in a home where he felt responsible for his alcoholic mother. Sadly, she never recovered despite his many attempts to help her. As an adult, he continues to feel ineffective at work. When he receives any critical feedback from his boss, he feels deeply rejected and thinks, what is the point of trying? High arousal symptoms are one side of the CPTSD equation. Low arousal symptoms such as hopelessness, despair, and depression reside on the other side. These symptoms typically result from living in a threatening environment with no escape. When you have no ability to change your situation, you may be left feeling ineffective, powerless, and helpless. Shame and unworthiness are signature depressive symptoms of complex PTSD. So, page 33 now. We're not going to do that practice on 31 because we did that the last video. But let's move on to page 33 where it talks about recognizing shame. I think this is a very important topic because this is something that I have struggled with most of my life, is experiencing shame due to the childhood abuse that I went through when I was the ages of 2 to 13. So it says recognizing shame. Shame is characterized by the belief that you are bad. This emotion is based upon a distorted sense of yourself as being unworthy, damaged, or a failure. Young children are completely dependent upon caregivers for a sense of safety and connection in the world. When parents are frightening, abusive, or unavailable, children can feel confused about who is at fault. When children witness something bad, they feel bad. Inaccurate and judgmental thoughts such as the following ones perpetuate shame. And these are some of the examples they are giving. There must be something wrong with me. That could be a judgmental thought that somebody might think due to shame. That will perpetuate shame. I mean, I'm so stupid. I can't seem to do anything right. I'm an emotional wreck. I'm just lazy. Once you are aware of the messages you are telling yourself, you can do something about them and you will develop the strength to turn toward your pain. The self compassion and acceptance practices you will discover in this workbook are antidotes to shame. So the practice here says what depressive symptoms, such as hopelessness, despair, depression, powerlessness, lack of self efficacy, hopelessness, hopelessness, shame, unworthiness, do you experience? How do these symptoms show themselves in your life? So I reflected on that and what my thoughts used to be like. And what I remember a lot up until I was in my 30s was I felt like I was too broken. I kept telling that to myself in my mind is like I'm too broken to be able to be in a healthy relationship. Like I'm never going to be able to be in a healthy relationship because I'm too broken. And that was my repetitive self-talk, which was not conducive. It was not good. And so I did some research on that to see what information I could pull up, right? But anyway, Luis W. Hernandez. Sorry, just a second. So what I found was that it says that depression often creates deep global beliefs such as I'm broken, I'm unlovable. I've heard a lot of people say that, oh, girl, I'm never going to find anybody. I'm unlovable. And I just, I can recognize it sometimes in other people, but it's hard whenever you're talking to yourself and you're telling yourself these things and they're coming out of your mouth, but you're not realizing that they're coming out of your mouth. And sometimes you do realize it, but sometimes you don't. You just do it. You told it to yourself for so many years that it's now a subconscious thought, right? That it just comes out. And so, anyway, so another thing that people say is, I'm too damaged. I used to think that as well. Another thing is, I'll ruin any relationship, or no one could ever really want me. And that was something that I have struggled with. But it says that these are just passing thoughts that feel like truths because depression targets your sense of identity. That was eye-opening to me. I was like, I like to dissect things to be able to uh, understand why I react a certain way or why I think a certain way or why do I have this specific reaction to a certain thing or a certain person. Um, and to be able to put a name to it, to me, is very liberating, I guess. But it helps me to understand myself and helps me to understand others as well. So I did a little bit more digging. I was like, so depression targets your sense of identity. Huh, okay. And then it says there's a specific name to it for this that I've done before. I don't know if you've done this. If you have, put it up in the comments and let me know if you can resonate with what I'm saying. But um, basically, this is called negative self schema, where your brain filters everything through a harsh, self critical lens, um, and depression distorts our perception. So, just to understand, I mean, just to know that there's a name for that, and that this is common in a lot of people that go through trauma, complex PTSD because of trauma that they were in for a very long time, and which becomes depression, and then, or people can fall into depression, and then um, that depression targets an individual's sense of identity, which then you go into negative self schema, and this oppression distorts our perception of ourselves and other things around us, right? And so that was pretty awesome to learn. And then also, it says that, okay. So some of the things you can experience are like negative core beliefs about yourself that we've already talked about, the emotional numbness or heaviness. I felt an emotional numbness before. Um, Self-protective withdrawal, cognitive distortions. These are thinking patterns that depression creates, which is what we spoke about. The I'm if I'm not an example, I guess, would be if I'm not perfect, I'm broken, or overgeneralization, like I've been hurt before, so every relationship will fail, or they'll see how broken I am eventually. These are all cognitive distortions or thinking patterns that depression creates, or emotional reasoning. I feel broken, so I must be broken. Feelings become mistaken for facts. And so we start repeating this stuff to ourselves over and over and over again until the feelings feel like facts, and they're not. Um, One of the things, well, let me go on to the rest. So another one is low sense of worthiness. Another one is loss of hope about the future. Um, and I want to say that the one that I think struggle from time to time with is the self-protective withdrawal. So, depression often makes you pull away from people, avoid getting close, assume rejection before it happens, to the point that you sabotage closeness unintentionally. This isn't weakness. It's just our nervous system trying to protect ourselves from perceived emotional danger. So I love learning about that as well. And so that's why I get a little bit more information on that. But yeah, I tend to, or and it used to be a lot more often. I would self sabotage a lot in relationships. And um, if I, f- yeah, if I felt any inkling of rejection or or like yeah, I just immediately would pull away from people and just cut it off, because I'm just I was self-protecting through withdrawal, and that's what that is. And that's all part of depression. That's all part of that, and I didn't even know that that was associated to the depression, but it says depression often makes you pull away from people, avoid getting close, assume rejection before it happens, sabotage closeness unintentionally. So this was all eye-opening for me, as just finding out like what the cause of why you react or have these specific patterns is really intriguing, really interesting. Um, and then I wanted to also touch base on one of the things that I also read was, so basically your depression changes how your brain evaluates you, and it lowers activity in brain regions responsible for hope, motivation, reward, positive self perception, and it also increases activity in self critical networks. Your brain is literally biased against you when you're depressed. Um, People who feel broken, like I once did, are often actually, it says, people like that are often actually sensitive, deep thinkers, emotionally aware, carrying pain, trauma, or exhaustion, trying to protect themselves. Feeling broken usually means you've been hurt. Not that you're permanently damaged, it just means that you've been hurt. So the next time that if you're ever feeling like you're too broken for something, too broken or unworthy because you feel like you're too damaged or something, just you got to remember that feeling broken usually means you've just been hurt. And I think for me, I hadn't processed that hurt until my 30s, my mid to late 30s. And so it was just a repetition of the same thought, the same thought patterns of the same thing that I just mentioned. And not knowing that this was the underlying reason for it, right? Because you take those as facts, like that's the truth, and it's not really the truth about who you are or anything. It's not the truth of anything. It's just perception based on the depression. Okay, and then so basically it also says depression tells you you are too broken to be loved, right? But reality is that people don't need perfection to love someone. They need honesty, safety, and emotional presence. And those can exist even while healing. You don't have to be fully healed to be worthy of love. And it says healing often happens within safe relationships, not before them. And that caught my eye. And I even put it in like red because that's one of the things that I noticed, that I was in so many bad relationships in my past that I didn't know what a safe relationship was like, right? So I started doing research on relationships, and I went to relationship class to learn more about relationships and patterns. The kind of people that you attract, and the patterns that are there and where those patterns stem from. And so once I started working on that and trying to do more research on that and educating myself on that, then I was able to kind of get a idea of what a good relation or a healthy relationship was supposed to be like, right? So when I got into my last relationship, that my husband now, I I remember for both of us, because he's been through, also his own stuff in his past. And so I think we both went through like a year period of adjusting and also what is how do I explain it? So basically what happened is things started rising up for us. Like like I don't know what you I read it earlier, but I don't know what you call it, but basically like old insecurities start rising up and stuff like that. But we were doing great because on our own before we met each other, he was doing his own work within himself. I was doing my own work within myself, and we both felt like we were good within ourselves. But it wasn't until we got into the healthy relationship that we started realizing that there was stuff coming up for each of us in different ways. And so that's when we started realizing that that there was stuff to work through within ourselves still, but that wouldn't have come up if we wouldn't have been in a relationship. And so in a healthy relationship, right? Um, and so some of the stuff that I researched, I did more research on that because I wanted to know more. And it said people don't heal because of a relationship. They heal because a healthy relationship shows their nervous system what safety feels like. And I remember both of us feeling like the shoe's going to drop any moment now. Like, when is the shoe going to drop? Like, when is, everything going to, when is it going to go south, basically? And we were always like trying to brace ourselves for the worst in the relationship, right? And we often kept telling ourselves, like, I can't believe that I can't believe that it's this great. Like, that our relationship is this great. Like, it was just unbelievable to us. And that's why we also felt like, okay, when is the shoe gonna drop? When is it gonna go south? Like, and stuff like that. And that happened for a good at least year and a half minimum, maybe two. And so anyway, so it says that people don't heal because of a relationship. So we didn't heal, or we didn't begin to heal because of the relationship, because we're now in a relationship. We healed because, or we began to heal because a healthy relationship shows our nervous system what safety feels like. When someone has been hurt, their brain learns to expect pain. Their brain learns to expect rejection. Our brain learns to expect abandonment. Even if we want to heal, our nervous system stays in protection mode. A healthy relationship gives us a new experience of someone staying, someone listening, someone not hurting us. And over time, our brain learns, I'm safe now. I don't have to protect myself in the same way anymore. That's when healing starts to happen. Okay. So, and that's the process that I have been going through in my current relationship. Is like, at the beginning it was just kind of like, when is this shoe going, just expecting to be hurt again, and trying to brace for the worst, and trying to prepare like for the absolute worst. Like, it was hard for me to even like move in with him, and completely like not have my own place and stuff, because it was hard to trust. It was hard to not brace for the worst, and so so yeah, that was a difficult decision for me. And but yeah, so that's what I've noticed. Healing didn't start happening for us until we were in the relationship already. And the first year and a half was literally like adjusting to each other, and knowing more about each other. And knowing what our triggers were, and working through some of like our old patterns, and working through our own thought patterns even, uh, and all that stuff, because all of that came, it's like it's baggage. It comes from the relationships before, where people hurt you and abused you, or whatever, whatever trauma or stuff you went through in the past, all of that, you bring that with you into the new relationship. And it's not until you begin to feel your body, not even, it's just your nervous system. Your nervous system, it's going to take you time for you to begin to feel safe again. And I believe, this is just I've read it in places, but this is also my personal opinion too, is that there's no way that we can actually be in a relationship, I mean, a toxic relationship, and healing, and trying to heal, because that it's just, I feel like it's, I'm not going to say it's impossible, because I'm sure that maybe there's exceptions here and there, but I think it is very difficult to heal, or try to heal, from whether it's childhood or anything. Like, I feel like it's just hard to heal, period, when you're still in a toxic environment or a toxic situationship. And it's not until your nervous system begins to regulate and feel safe. And it cannot be just for 2 weeks or a month. Your nervous system, like for me, well, I don't, everybody's is probably different, right? But me personally, I think it took me, like I said, about a year and a half, maybe two, to feel like, for my nervous system to feel safe. And that I could begin to trust. And and even that, what even at 2 years, I would say that was still difficult, but I could feel myself coming around, like, little by little, with consistency from his part. I could feel myself being able to shift into feeling safe and trusting and all that. And so I say that to say, because I say that because I've overheard, like, in different social media platforms, where women are trying to heal, but, like, they're still in the toxic situationship, and they're finding it very difficult. And it's like, no, you can't be. Okay, so you're going to counseling, and there's nothing wrong with going to counseling and still trying, right? And then to vent, because you're going through all this stuff, right? But at the moment, or maybe you're trying to work through your childhood trauma while you're, married to a toxic individual. And it's okay to try to do that, but I just think that, personally, it is best to completely get out of the toxic relationship, to be able to, for your nervous system to begin to regulate itself, and begin to actually do the work of healing, start the work of healing. And that's all I'm going to say for today. I don't want to go too much into it. I just want to keep it at that. We're already at 30 minutes. And so just wanted to touch base on that. And also, um, if y'all have any comments on what I discussed today, feel free to put them in the comment section, and let me know if any of y'all can resonate to any of what I talked about, or any of the stuff that I spoke about, that I went through, my personal experiences and stuff. I also wanted to mention that I will have, I had already mentioned on a previous video, that I would have other speakers come on. And I've actually gotten two speakers that are lined up to come and be on my channel. And so tomorrow I will have a speaker telling his story. And then I believe I'm going to try to have the other person on Sunday So today is Wednesday, the 18th, February the 18th. And so, like I said, tomorrow's on Thursday, I'm going to have one person telling their story. And then it's a pretty inspirational story. I think that it's going to be interesting, and I think it'll be an encouragement to others out there. And then also, I'm having another one on Sunday, but that one's going to be more about like, I also spoke about abilities outside the regular senses. And because I also experienced stuff like that. And so I'm going to bring this young lady on, and she's going to talk about her personal experience with what she goes through, and she's going to tell her story of her of how she um, was born with her different abilities. I guess I don't know if you know, I don't know if it's people call it intuition, uh, abilities, but it's more than the five senses. So we will. Other people call it gifts. So we will talk to her on Sunday and get her story on that, and then I will share a little bit about what I also experience as well. And then from there we'll see what we can come up with on the following week on going on to, I think we're about to go into chapter 2. So I think we got like maybe one more, um, 2 more pages I want to read out of this chapter, the first chapter, and then we'll start on chapter 2 after that. And so that's it. See y'all later, guys. Bye.